Aloha everyone, this is Chesapeake Movie Thoughts, and I am back from a winter hiatus now. Still winter, obviously, as you can see, but I'm back. And I thought this time I would talk about a movie series that I've been rewatching. It is the Men in Black series, starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. First one I remember came out in 1997, summer of 1997. It was the surprise hit that summer. I remember that summer very well. I was actually working in a movie theater for that summer, so a lot of the movies that came out that summer, I remember quite well. Men in Black was like the biggest movie that summer, and it was not expected to be. This was the year that a sequel to Jurassic Park was coming out, The Lost World, and a Batman sequel, Batman and Robin, was coming out. In the 90s, Jurassic Park and Batman were like two of the biggest franchises out there. And so everyone was excited for movies like those. And Men in Black nobody knew anything about, so nobody expected much out of it. I mean, I don't think anyone expected it to bomb. They didn't know what to expect from it. So they weren't really, it wasn't on people's radar so much. But it became the biggest hit of that summer. Will Smith having just had big success the previous summer with Independence Day, being pretty much, well, it's a kind of an ensemble cast in Independence Day, but he's one of the biggest leads in that movie, if not the biggest lead. So, I mean, Will Smith was, I mean, prior to Independence Day, Will Smith was probably thought of as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air by most people as a sitcom actor. But, you know, he made the transition to the big screen. Men in Black was kind of the follow-up to Independence Day, and I think that between the two of those movies, that helped to make him a big movie star. But the movie, I think, was kind of a spiritual successor to Ghostbusters, in a way. In that it had the same kind of blend of sort of action-adventure with goofy comedy, and had some very imaginative designs for, well, in the Men in Black, the aliens. There were some imaginative ghost designs in Ghostbusters. And, you know, Men in Black did kind of the same thing with aliens. And a lot of good world building in Men in Black. It did make you very interested in seeing what the world, the secret world, beneath the surface of aliens living among us might be like. But the big thing that everybody responded to was the dynamic between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. They were just fun to watch play off each other, fun to watch interact with each other. And that's what everybody loved about it. And spoiler alert, I suppose, for the first Men in Black movie. The first Men in Black movie, obviously they had sequels in mind if they got the chance to do them. See, of course, this was in the days before they had sequels planned out in advance. They always waited to see how the movie did box office before they greenlit a sequel. So, you know, these weren't the cinematic universes we have now, where they know several years in advance what movies they're going to release. You know, a part of what franchises. This one, they didn't know this was going to be a franchise, but they wanted to do sequels because they have some sequel bait at the end. But it starts off with, well, it ends with, I should say, Tommy Lee Jones' character, Agent K, retiring, getting his memory erased, and going back to civilian life. So he's written out of the story, and they give Will Smith's character, Agent J, a new partner, Agent L, played by Linda Fiorentino, who had been a secondary character throughout the first movie. And so they were planning on sequels using those characters. But I think that when the first one came out, it was a big hit, and what everyone responded to was the dynamic between J and K, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. I think they knew that A, they were going to do a sequel, they were going to get the chance to do a sequel, but B, they were going to have to bring Agent K back. They were going to have to bring Tommy Lee Jones back, because that's what the audiences wanted to see. They wanted to see that dynamic. It would have been nice to see Agent L in there as well. Maybe like the three of them working together, but that's not the way they went. I don't know if they just couldn't get Linda Fiorentino back. But they had to write a story for the sequel in which they have to bring Agent K back from his retirement, they have to deneuralize him. So, obviously that was going to be a little bit convoluted. It has to be, it has to be a little bit contrived. Because you've got finality, you've got closure on this character, and then you have to reverse that. So, what are you going to do? So the sequel, Men in Black 2, the second one, is probably the weakest one. I've rewatched it recently, and I think that it could have been better. It could have been better. I think mostly it could have used some rewrites. Could have used, it needed more polish, I think. I was watching and I thought there was some stuff there you could sink your teeth into that just didn't do anything with it. There was stuff in the sequel, in Men in Black 2, about Will Smith's character, Agent J, starting to feel the loneliness of this life where nobody knows who you are, and you can't have relationships. You can't form attachments with anyone outside the Men in Black. And we see that eventually that this mirrors something that Agent K went through back in the 60s. And they don't really do anything with it. They introduce this parallel, and they never really explore it, everything like that. They just give a few lines without going into much depth. And there's something really there that you could have sunk their teeth into. There's this whole mystery about the Light of Zartha, which is the MacGuffin for this movie, and what it is and what it means. And they could have done more with that, and they didn't. The villain is Zerlina, played by Lara Flynn Boyle. It is a much less interesting villain, I think, than in the first movie, Edgar the Bug, in the first movie. Which, by the way, Edgar the Bug in the first movie, that was a really good villain. The Vincent D'Onofrio plays basically a bug, a giant alien bug, who has folded himself into himself to fit inside of a human skin. And, wow, how do you play that? The guy does a good job. Vincent D'Onofrio does a good job of playing an alien bug inside a human skin, and the makeup effects are really good. That's one thing about Men in Black. In the whole series, there's some CGI, which is very noticeable, which I think it does not hurt this series very much. I mean, it's the first movie is late 90s, so you get late 90s CGI, which is not very advanced, but it looks cartoony, and the movie has kind of a cartoony feel from to begin with. So I think that it does hurt. That you may get a little bit of a Roger Rabbit vibe, especially watching it now, as opposed to when it came out. You're even more aware of that it's CGI now, and it looks even more cartoony. But a little bit of a Roger Rabbit vibe. I think it works with the kind of goofy tone they go for. But there's a lot of practical effects too, which are really good. Which really inventive, really nice. The makeup effects were really good, especially for its time. That's a really good movie. I mean, maybe it's not the classic that Ghostbusters was, but for what it is, it's a really good movie. It's a great movie that deserves to be remembered. That's the first movie I'm talking about. Getting back to the second movie, though, the villain it's like she doesn't want to be there. Which is kind of the same as the villain in the first movie. He didn't really want to be on Earth. He didn't like being on Earth. Same with Zerlina in the second movie, the villain. But it just seems like the actress didn't want to be there either. It's like the actress wasn't playing I don't want to be here. That was just the way she was. It seemed kind of phoned in. I'm sorry, Lara Flynn Boyle. It seemed kind of phoned in. The saving grace, probably, of the second movie is Rosario Dawson. She looked like she was having a lot of fun, and I really liked the kind of laid back, go with the flow kind of character she was. I mean, she was introduced to this world of aliens and Men in Black. And it doesn't take her long to be okay, well, this is the way it is now. I'm just gonna go with it, That's her attitude, and I think this is a trait of the actress because I've seen her in other things, and she's just fun to watch. She's just got a lot of charm to her, a lot of charisma. And she brings that to this movie, and I think that's what saves the movie. But there was, just the movie feels kind of rushed. There's just a lot of stuff that, if they went through a few rewrites, they could have explored better. The whole thing about the role reversal, about how the neuralized Agent K is now kind of like the rookie, and then Agent J has to be kind of the more experienced agent. And, they play with that a little bit, but they could have done more with it. And then, of course, the whole thing reverses back once he gets his memory back. Spoiler, I guess. He gets his memory back, but of course he was going to. So, yeah, that one is kind of weak. There's good stuff in there. I'll tell you what, here's another thing they wasted. Patrick Warburton is a Men in Black agent in the second movie, Men in Black 2. I enjoy me some Patrick Warburton. They could have done... think about it. Patrick Warburton as a man in Black. That would be funny if they use it right. But he's barely in it, really. He's just there to establish that Agent J has moved on to other partners, and he's just there to get out of the way. He gets neuralized and gets shoved aside. And he could have. That's good casting right there. Patrick Warburton is really. His sense of humor would really work for this franchise. But they didn't do much with him. But, you get to see him a little bit. There's some good stuff. Maybe there's a little bit too much fan service, a little bit too much from the original that they shoved in, and that they didn't have to do as much with, where the more meatier stuff they could have done, there was only a little bit there, and they could have done more with. But I think, a couple more rewrites, a couple more passes at the script, probably could have fixed it. But, we got what we got. There's still good stuff in it. It's still worth watching, but it's probably the one that you would least go back to out of the three. And then I just watched the third one again, Men in Black 3, which came out quite a few years later. Everybody kind of thought the franchise had died out when this one came back out, so no one was really expecting it. And because of that, I don't think it gets remembered much today. Let's just watch it again, though. It's really good. I really enjoy it. It may be better than the first one. It doesn't have, maybe not at the cultural touchstone that the first one was. Because it was kind of a minor cultural touchstone. But, the Men in Black 3, well, first of all, it's a time travel story. I'm kind of a sucker for time travel stories. That's just me, but I kind of am. The action is ramped up. There's some good action in this movie. The effects are better. It's still a cartoony at times, but that fits with this franchise. But the effects are much better. There is some meaty stuff that actually work. They actually do something with, and dealing with. You set up this dynamic, which we love to watch with Agent J and Agent K, and the one is the younger, more energetic one. The other's the old sourpuss, and they actually play with the relationship between the two, and how it may be deeper than we're seeing. That there may be more to it, and there's a connection there that they're delving into, and they're actually doing something with it, and I enjoyed that. Like I said, I enjoyed the time travel element. Villain was much better this time. Boris the Animal as the villain, who. It's not played by Tim Curry, but the voice sounds a lot like Tim Curry. When they're not doing making it like alien growls and things like that. It does sound a lot, and I like what they did with it. He seems threatening. It seems like there's a legitimate threat to the Earth. In the second movie, in the dialogue and what they explain, it seems there's a legitimate threat to the Earth, but you never feel it. You feel it more in this movie, but it still preserves the comedy and the imaginativeness. There's a lot of... I like what they do with the one character that lives in 5 dimensions and can see all possible futures. I thought they did some interesting stuff with that. Of course, they set up the rules for time travel, as many time travel movies do, and there's a scene at the end where they break those rules. And they don't even react like they are breaking them. There's a scene at the end, not to give too much away, but there's a scene at the end where where they use the time travel again, but it just reverses time instead of displacing someone in time. Like previously in the movie, when someone went back in time, they were displaced in time, and then there were two of that person, the person that was originally there in that time, and the person that came back from the future. So that person was there twice. They use the time travel again later in the movie, and time is just rewinds, and there's only the one of that person there, but he remembers the future. So they kind of set up the rules and break, but time travel movies do that all the time. That's what you expect from time travel movies. If you like any of them that are actually consistent, that's like actually praiseworthy. You expect them to be inconsistent. But yeah, I mean, Tommy Lee Jones was really good, but he wasn't in it that much, really, and you kind of forget that because they had Josh Brolin playing the younger Agent K, and he does a remarkable job of convincing you he's Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, he does a commendable job. That character is completely consistent. I mean, they say when another character comes to a role, that, well, you don't just copy the other actor that played that role. You got to bring your own to it. And I've always thought, well, yeah, but isn't that inconsistent? And maybe if it's a reboot, yeah. But if it's supposed to be in the same continuity, I mean, isn't consistency worth something? I mean, shouldn't there be to some degree, some copying of the performance so that the character seems consistent for the audience? Well, they do that in this movie, and I appreciate that. And I gotta say, like I said, the action has been ramped up. It's like almost like like at the beginning of the movie, there's some this legitimate cop movie kind of action going on, which made me think, this would make a good TV series. Now, it's been a TV series on Saturday morning cartoons. Well, Saturday morning cartoons are still a thing, in animated form. But I'm like a live action primetime series. That with the Men in Black. I mean, even if it wasn't with Agents J and K, if they had just different partnership that we were following, it would make a good primetime cop show, like a funny cop show, of action comedy kind of thing, just with the twist that it's the Men in Black and they're policing aliens. I think that would be a great idea. The franchise has cooled down again, it seems. Men in Black 3, I don't think did a whole lot to bring that franchise back. But I think it deserves a second look, or a third look at this point. I think there's a lot more to it. And if you haven't seen the Men in Black movies, I recommend it. Go back and watch them. And I enjoyed them a lot. There's, like I said, second one's a little weak. But the first and the third ones, there's a lot you can get out of those. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's a wrap.